I went to college. I got my degree in statistics, which is a male-dominated field.
Right.
I got my job at Visa, and at the age of 24, I bought my home in the Bay Area, which is an expensive market to purchase a home in. I don't mean to brag about myself, but it just proves to you that I worked my butt off to get what I had. After I bought my home, I proceeded to remodel the home with my own two hands using YouTube tutorials. So literally, I did not need a man. I did the manly work. I learned how to use a table saw and not cut off all 10 fingers, right? So I proved that I can live this life without a man. And I'm telling you, it is not fulfilling. Because at the end of the day, I was sitting in an empty home, absolutely miserable that I was alone. I need a man to fulfill my greatest potential in life, which is to become a mother. Nothing that's better than becoming a mother and having that legacy. And when you find the right man who wants to have that legacy as well, you will want to submit to him.
You want to know what that was? That was part of this trend going around. And the alt-right community, they're calling it former feminist. Some of them are doing like a hashtag X feminist. And basically, a woman posts a video where she talks about how she used to be a feminist. Like, I had a college degree and a high-paying job. I bought my own house, but I was alone and sad because I didn't have a husband and I wasn't doing what God wanted me to do by having babies. So I stopped being a feminist, renounced my feminism, got married and had babies, and now labels herself a former feminist. And she usually ends the video with some stupid Bible verse about submitting to her husband and tells us that now that she's not a feminist, she's so happy. This is ridiculous, and even writing the notes for this video made me want to barf. Let's dive in to the wealthy alt-right biblical wife grift. I'm Jenny Gage, and this is Life Take 2.
I think that we've gone wrong here, that women should prioritize family and children way above career, that they should try to find their husband before they're 25, that they should try to get married way younger. Having children, I believe, is a blessing from the Lord. It's the most amazing thing. You should try to have as many children as you can. Much more important than traveling to Thailand or having a big apartment or a bunch of cats, okay?
Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. I know there's a lot of great stuff out there on YouTube. I always appreciate you stopping on one of my videos. I am going to be talking about Charlie Kirk today, just a little bit. And just because I'm talking about Charlie Kirk's ideologies doesn't mean that I condone violence at all. In fact, I am 100% opposed to guns. I think that we need to just destroy them all off the face of the earth and never have them again. And I'm frankly sad that Charlie's life was ended so young so that he didn't have the chance to have his life take two and become a woke atheist like I am. I'm also going to be talking about Erica Kirk today. I've never met her. She's from my hometown, but I am way older than her, and she's way richer than me. So despite having money, I never had enough money to live in one of her neighborhoods. I don't want to take away from her grief and the horror she's endured, but she's being held up as the ultimate example of biblical womanhood and being pushed around the world as the example that we're all supposed to follow. We have to talk, not about who she is, but about what she's selling. So to be clear, I'm not attacking, but I am furious because I fell for it. I got scammed by my church and spent the first 44 years of my life submitting to men. As a result, I ended up homeless and traumatized. I'm a survivor of the system myself, and I know that women out there followed me. Some of my sisters, young cousins, young nieces. And then later in life, when I was the Young Women's President, I was directly teaching this lifestyle to young girls. So no hate on Erica, but consider this video a Google review of the lifestyle. It sucked. 0 stars. Product not as pictured. I sent it back. And you should avoid it like the plague. So this obnoxious, ridiculous genre of I'm a former feminist videos. I've seen a bunch of these specifically about Erica Kirk floating around for the past week or so. Usually in the context of I had this amazing life and then I met Charlie, I fell in love, and I decided to do what I knew the Lord wanted me to do, which is have babies and be a wife and a mother. And you go into the comment sections in these videos and it's just full of, oh, this is the most inspiring thing that I've ever seen in my life, and praise be to Jesus. And I know I'm a wife and mother too, and it's the most satisfying thing that I've ever done. I would never want to be a feminist again. They've been lied to. And again, I know this because I was one of them. We used the term women's libbers in my house like some people would use 4-letter words. I hated women's libbers. They were the devil. And I hated them because I was being lied to. These ladies have lived in an insular society. They lived in this little bubble and they don't know reality outside of the bubble. I didn't. I saw some of the neighbor ladies that like had jobs and stuff, but my mom didn't let me go to their houses. I could only play with the Mormon kids. That kept me in the bubble. So I really didn't know the reality either. The Mormon church opposed all civil rights, by the way. It was racist. They didn't want women's lib or Black rights or anything. I was born before Black people in the Mormon church could even like have the priesthood or get married in those Mormon temples or anything like that. So Mormon prophets have been quoted as saying things like, divorce started to happen because women went and got jobs, and women come home from the typewriter, come home from the laundromat, take care of your children, do what God wants you to do, be a wife and a mother. The Mormon church, the evangelical church, Turning Point USA, all of these institutions are all the same. They're just different cookie recipes. Maybe the Mormon church was snickerdoodles. Turning Point is oatmeal chocolate chip. But they all wanted to suppress civil rights for one reason. Because they were seen as a threat to the religion. Church leaders demonized feminism, and that makes church girls afraid of it. And when you're inside that bubble, you don't realize that the rest of the world doesn't view feminism like that. So they're all out there posting these videos. I'm a former feminist, like other people might post, I'm a former drug addict or I'm a former murderer, because in their group, they've bought into the lie and they think that feminism is this horrible thing. Another reason why the gals in this alt-right religious community are doing these videos and saying these things is that they genuinely think that they hold the corner of the market, that they own the patents on all things that are good and noble in the woman sphere, what they would call biblical womanhood. Why do they think that? Well, the answer to that all comes down to the Garden of Eden. I acted the Garden of Eden out in the Mormon temple a million times. Like literally we acted out Adam and Eve eating the fruit and the snake and Jesus and all this stuff, right? Like we physically acted that out. You can go watch some videos. Maybe I'll post one in the description. If you're not familiar with Genesis, God made Eve out of Adam's rib as a helpmeet. Eve ate the fruit and was punished. I had to bow my head and say yes to obeying my husband because Eve had eaten the fruit and been punished. There's a scripture, neither is the man without the woman, nor the woman without the man, thus saith the Lord. And then all of the leave and cleave, which causes widespread tribal decay, cutting the woman off from her family, but we'll talk about that another day. These alt-right Christian cultists think that you're not a good woman if you don't find a man, submit, be a providence woman, be feminine. And being feminine to me just meant like hair extensions, eyelash extensions, push-up bras, milkmaid dresses, quote a few Bible verses, have babies, make a bunch of homemade food, and submit. And here's a little bit of what submit meant to me. Submit meant that if I wanted the red car, but Jake wanted the black car, then we bought the black car because he was the husband. I was a biblical woman. I wore biblical womanhood like a mantle, which, I mean, honestly, when you think about it, that's like just putting on the costume of biblical womanhood. That's my take on it. But the nice thing about that cloak of womanhood or putting on a costume is that you're able to recognize the other good women when you're out and about. So again, like I'd see some of my neighbor ladies who had jobs and came home from work in like their little pantsuits after being gone all day making money. And I could see from the outside that they didn't have on the cloak of womanhood. And that allowed me to judge them, even from the time I was like a little girl, because they weren't as good as my mom. That right there, that one size fits all, that the Bible has a prescription for what a non-feminist woman is and what a feminist woman is, that causes these women to think they're better than the rest of us. I thought it was better than all of you out there who are working and not having babies and not getting married. And like, I felt that deeply. Another reason they're doing these videos is they think feminism means that you're a man-hating hoe with a cat who eats frozen food for dinner, spends her whole life just working her way up the ladder, and dies alone watching Netflix with her cat, a vibrator, and the little microwave box of Trader Joe's frozen macaroni and cheese. You guys, I hated women's libbers because I saw them as people who were directly opposed to the kingdom of God and his truth. And if I was to have defined what I thought women's liberation or feminist meant when I was a Mormon tradwifey, I would have literally said feminists are man haters. Feminists are single women who sleep around, who refuse to have babies like God made them to do, and who think that they're better than men. Like literally, if I saw a woman being a boss over a man, well, that's a feminist, and that's not God's plan. And that's what all of these women think. That's what Charlie Kirk thought. That's what Erica Kirk thinks. And they're wrong. That's what their pastors and bishops and Sunday school teachers and evangelical podcasters are teaching. And they're all liars. And every single one of these alt-right church-going women is a feminist. And here's the part that actually makes me furious, because I was a real biblical wife, as were my grandmothers, my aunts, and really every woman in the community around me. I dropped out of college at age 19 because my ex-husband, Jake, said he wasn't going to pay to educate a housewife. That was a direct quote. That was a quote out of my brand new Mormon returned missionary husband's mouth a week after we got married, when I was filling out my college applications for the next semester. So I haven't had any education after age 19. I know that that kind of shows sometimes in my videos. I didn't use birth control. My church leaders taught me the doctrine that I was to let God be my birth control. So I had an open womb. That's a phrase that I used. I was the handmaid of the Lord. No birth control. Absolutely no birth control. The only reason I didn't have more kids is I had fertility problems. But I spent a lot of my adult life barefooted and pregnant and changing diapers and nursing babies and being a mom. I didn't have a job or even a bank account. And I know that there are so many people out there who can't even imagine that, but I just want to share this. I still belong to some of my old Tradwife groups on Facebook and Instagram and other places. And this post was just today from a young traditional wife, a young Christian wife who is following this example that women like Erica Kirk are teaching her. People like her pastors are telling her that this is what she should do. And it's so sad. She's like, no, I don't have a bank account. Sometimes my husband lets me borrow his debit card so that I can go to the store and buy something. But sometimes I just want to buy myself a new shirt. So what if I just ask him for like $20 to $50 a week? You guys, when these women stand up and shine this example to their community, this is having real life impact on people who are trying to live it out exactly as it's prescribed. So yeah, I didn't have a job or a bank account. My name wasn't on our family business. I worked for free, just as my husband's helpmate, as his personal assistant, doing anything he needed me to, sometimes going out and doing sales calls, sometimes managing our sales team. But I didn't pollute my godly position as a woman and wife by accepting money for that. My husband actually made all of the decisions. He once came home and told me he'd sold my car. He bought all of my cars without me going to the dealership and asking what I wanted or having me test drive or anything. The very first car that I bought was this spring, and I'm a 51-year-old grandma. And I know I've posted some videos about that. It was such an emotional thing just to sign the papers and buy a car. He would sell our homes without asking me, and my name wasn't on them, so I had no power over any of that. This is the worst. And I had to submit to this. He was my husband. He gave our adopted child to my sister-in-law without asking me. He came home one night, said, our 4.5-year-old child is now going to my sister and her husband. We're unadopting him. And the next day he was gone. I just reunited with him last month, by the way, for the first time in 16 years, the child that I lost when he was 4.5 years old. My husband was my master, and in so many ways, I was just his house slave. The vision of biblical womanhood that these women are peddling is sick. It destroyed my life, and I have heard stories now for the past almost 7 years from other women in this lifestyle from around the world. So it makes me furious that these women aren't actually living it at all. Ironically, after I don't know how many thousands of speeches Charlie Kirk has given at campuses telling women, don't get your degree, get your Mrs. degree, get married and have babies. What you do doesn't matter. Erica Kirk had degrees and careers. She didn't get married at age 20 like me. She has a podcast and a clothing company. She was a realtor for this posh real estate company in New York. She's a powerful woman and in every way a feminist. But she sometimes says little sentences out of her mouth about submitting. Like, I don't know, she was letting Charlie pick the couch color or something. And here's the deal. I don't think that most of the public who are consuming content from these biblical wife grifters understand that their lives are not what they're projecting. Because we as humans have a way of projecting our life onto others. If I'm a little stay-at-home mom in a normal, cute little home in the suburbs of Gilbert, Arizona, then I'm going to picture Erica Kirk as a normal little stay-at-home mom in a cute, normal little house in the suburbs. Do people understand what the Kirk home looks like? Do people understand what her schedule entails? People don't picture the massive mansions like the Kirk mansion. I've spent a lot of my life in Scottsdale, Arizona, and this is a spectacular home. They were incredibly wealthy. This is not just your normal little stay-at-home church girl type of life. People aren't picturing the babysitters and the housekeepers and the chefs and the personal assistants and the hours that these women work on their merch stores and their podcasts and traveling around the world for their speaking engagements. And they don't picture the hours that they spend in the salon, having their extensions done, having their nails done, meeting with stylists. The only reason anyone buys into any of these people, Erica Kirk, Ballerina Farm, Nara Smith, whoever, is that we are projecting our stuff onto them. But that is not these women's lives at all. They are talking a talk that they are absolutely not walking at all. Last night, we bought these bowls with like rice and chicken and all kinds of stuff. And I had ordered no corn. We get home, I grab a fork, open my bowl, sit down, and it's full of corn. I look at the lid. Do I have the right one? Yep, it says no corn right there. The words no corn written on the lid of a bowl full of corn didn't make it corn free. And it's really important for me not to have corn because I had part of my colon cut out. And I've had 2 almost life-threatening abdominal obstructions and resulting perforations because of corn. I love corn, but I have to have a corn-free life. And the words no corn don't do jack squat for anybody. And posting Bible verses and filming podcasts about submitting to your husband while also running businesses, owning assets, having a very lucrative career and a net worth of your own that's like astronomical, and speaking on stages doesn't make you a non-feminist. It's just a label slapped on a bowl full of corn. And let's define feminist for just a minute. They have the wrong definition altogether. Again, I thought that it was like these hoes who just like to sleep around and never get married and like defy God's will, like satanic apostate women who were so money hungry, they just wanted careers instead of a husband, right? That was my definition of feminist. I'd love to hear your definition of feminist. Will you drop that in the comments for me? Here's my definition now, and I wear the label proudly. A feminist is someone who wants equality for women, protection, a sustainable life, leadership opportunities, a voice, full rights as a human, access to everything that men have access to. But feminists also get married and have babies. It's funny, people are stunned whenever they see a man in my videos. They're like, where's the cat? I've actually gotten that comment in my comment sections over the years. I'm like, who's that guy? It always blows people away when Kev is part of my profile picture. Feminists get married. Feminists have babies. Feminists do all the stuff that the church girls are doing. We just make sure we have equality, a bank account, an education, a voice, respect, protection, purpose, and passion, and help with the kids. Oh, all the stuff they have, all the stuff that Erica Kirk has, all the stuff that Ballerina Farm has, Nara Smith, S.D. William, the list goes on and on. And again, I don't have a problem with Erica Kirk, Hannah Nealon, Nara Smith, S.D. Williams, or any of them. I do have a problem with lies. These women serve a purpose to the rich, religious, capitalistic boys. They are the propaganda arm of the patriarchy, modeling behavior designed to keep women where they need us, in bed waiting to get pregnant. This is all about access to our wombs because the men don't have any. Everything else is just fluff to distract us. Their ultimate fear is birth strikes. They want to be dads, and they need workers and soldiers and taxpayers, or their fragile, completely non-sustainable patriarchy just collapses. Read my Power, Priesthood, and Pussy Substack. That's all it is. The patriarchy is playing these girls, and they don't even know it. When a rich white woman like Erica Kirk, with degrees and LLCs and a global audience, preaches to Alabama high school dropouts. I use that as an example because I specifically recently received a DM from an Alabama high school dropout who's in a terrible situation. When a woman like Erica Kirk preaches to that girl about submissive biblical womanhood, she will never know the danger that she's putting other women in. She can't. Rapunzel in the Tower has no idea what's down there. I do. And that is why I am a feminist. I think that behind every feminist is a dose of hard reality. Growing up with a single mom, or maybe like growing up with no mom at all because dad killed her, I have heard so many stories in the years that I've been a women's rights activist. And it breaks my heart and it makes me mad and it makes me do videos. These women are not submissive biblical wives. If they have a microphone, if they have a camera turned on, if they have a ring light in the background, if they have a podcast at an LLC and they have an education and a career, they are feminists. They can be Bible reading, church going, married mommy feminists. But y'all got to stop doing these former feminist videos because they are just the biggest bunch of bullshit that I've probably ever seen online in my entire life. Getting married and having a baby and having your husband pay the mortgage, that doesn't mean that you're not a feminist anymore. What the hell? And to all you young women out there, don't let these rich church wives distract you with their grift. Be a feminist and a mom. Bake cookies. Tonight I'm doing trout, roasted Brussels sprouts, focaccia bread. What else do I have? I don't know. I'll put a link in the description for my cooking page over on Facebook. Because feminists still have to eat, you weirdos. Anyway, do all the things. Be as domestic and as married and as baby hungry as you want to. But just remember that a man is not a plan, so be sure you protect yourself and stop following the grifters and the posers. My granddad had a saying for that. He'd say, they're not practicing what they preach. Here is your filter going forward. Check contents, not captions. If the bowl says no corn and it's full of corn, you know what you're being fed. I'd love for you to comment your definition of feminist, share this with a young woman that you know and love, and do one practical thing tonight. Open your own account, put your name on the asset, read the fine print, tell your husband what color car you're going to buy. Labels don't define us. I would actually say that Erica Kirk and a lot of the MAGA girlies out there that are blah, 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 preaching about feminism all the time, a lot of them are more feminist by far than I am. And being a feminist doesn't stop just because you've put a ring on it. I just wonder about this younger generation sometimes. Like, what is going on in the world? Bye, guys.